Kitten Features, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in a student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wayne in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to ShowX on VtWProductions.com. You're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on the Sunday, May 5th, 2019. Welcome to the show. All right, everybody. And a happy, Happy Revenge of the 5th is the one that I like. As a after to yesterday's May the 4th be with you. So, yes. Hello and happy 5th of May to everyone out there. How's it going? All right. So, I think pretty much going to kick things off with, a little bit of
Dysfunctional Deviations.
Ken, how are you doing today, sir?
Hello. I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'm in a good mood. I've had a very productive day, and I think that's the key to being happy the key to being happy is success. And success can only ever happen when you're productive. And I've had a productive day, which means in some form I've been successful, and therefore I'm happy. How about you, sir?
That is a good way to be. I have often stated in the past, I've figured out that one of my core elements to feeling happy and successful is making progress on projects. And that I am very project-oriented, that I have very much... My moods base heavily on where I'm at in projects and whether I'm having success or failure. And so at the moment, I would say I'm doing okay with all of that. But as we get things kicked off today, sir, what have you been doing that hasn't been geek?
Well, I was actually, before I go into my actual Geek Cred, I had a talking point. We occasionally have these things in the Dysfunctional Deviations.
There are times where
usually
it's more
of a... Yeah, normally it's a kind of vaguely pseudo-political or ideological thing.
Whatever catches our fancy that day, whatever comes up, and it's like...
Yeah, very much.
You know what really... Wait, what is it? It's the Family Guy thing. What really grinds my gears? That one?
Yeah, it's kind of what we do. It's not always that way, though. A lot of the time
it's not always, but that happens.
It's just ideological, right?
Yes.
It doesn't have to necessarily be anything that's debatey.
Well, and I will apologize to everyone on stream, as you'll see me looking down a lot here, is that I am actually multitasking as we go.
Well,
what
are you doing, man?
I am sewing now by hand.
That's fine. That's hardly something that you can't talk while doing.
It is. It's not like I'm playing League of Legends or something right now.
No, that would be bad. We were about 30 seconds from having to continue playing League while doing the show. We managed to avoid it.
We never do that. Play games up until the start of the show.
Oh God, no! That'd be irresponsible. And surely, doing a 2-hour talk show takes some preparation and discussion, and not just playing video games until 30 seconds before. We should probably start the show.
That would be unprofessional, not like us. And yes, copy Absolutely. Right off the bat. As we were joking on the Star Wars thing. A rest in peace to, was it Peter Mayhew, who was the original actor for Chewbacca, who has recently just passed away. So, sad times there, but at the same time, he had lived I would argue, pretty good life. And so, celebration of what he is able to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so the thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was... So I follow Factorial on Facebook because I absolutely adore the game, right? Factorial is a game that's just brilliant. And I found this so that every single Friday they do an update on where they are with the game, what's going on with it, what their plans are, etc. And this time there was something particularly interesting.
Okay.
So most of these Friday updates are usually here's the graphical updates we've done, here's the things we're planning on doing, whatever, right? This time it was a couple of things. First of all, they said that they've now added more destruction to the game. So when things are destroyed, they look better. It's the graphical update for destroyed things.
You actually get to see things break apart more, or is it just they made new skins for the broken things?
Model before.
Okay.
Yeah, they had the standard model of ashes and black.
Oh, just kind of debris, whatever was left over.
Yeah, now they've actually made it so that each item that's by default in the game has a broken
It's
version,
contextual.
right?
You can see. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so it looks a lot better. And that was quite a small update. I thought that's a bit odd. But then I looked down a little bit, and they talked about their marketing plan for their 1.0 versions when they finally actually released the game, technically. And so they were looking at this, and okay, let me read it out because it's really quite good. I want to read the whole thing because it's a bit of a wall of text.
Okay.
So this is from Coverex of Factorial, who says this on Factorial.com. The 1.0 will be a one-time opportunity to drive the sales of Factorial, and as with the Steam release, we don't want to leave its potential untapped. I want to call myself, says Coverex, an idealist capitalist. This means that I truly believe in capitalism as long as it's done in a fair way. I want to do as much as I can to give good credit to capitalism by doing the right things myself. The famous quote of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and also no bull crap policy, is something that we take very seriously all the time during the development since the early days. Things like pricing $30 instead of $29.99. No sales, no microtransactions, game stability over features, no selling out to big companies that would use the game as a cash grab while destroying the brand. We actually declined to negotiate investment opportunities like this several times already, no matter what the price would be. The same would be when it would potentially come to any exclusivity deals, which is its own subject. And it goes on. But I want to talk about that specifically. I think that the ideology behind Factorio, I think that's just brilliant. I'm not surprised they've had many people come towards them and say, "Hey, can we buy the brand? We would like to buy it."
Yeah, it's very popular.
Yeah, Factorio was huge. It was the number 2 game on Steam last year for ratings, I think, for the rewards. And I never really considered the pricing of $30 instead of $29.99. It makes sense though, right? Like $29.99 is clearly trying to play into a psychological concept of like, oh, it's only $20 and
it's
change.
less than $30.
Exactly right. I hate that crap. So I'm glad they're not even doing that. The no sales thing, I gotta say, like, always kind of annoyed me with Factorio, the fact there was no sales with it, because I always wanted to try and tell friends, like, pick it up at Christmas when it's cheaper.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get any cheaper. But now that I think about it, I think I would rather a system where sales don't happen and we have a middle of the road price at all times.
Well,
and maybe
there's a piece to that I can see, which is sales can be appropriate when, and for me, a lot of it has been classic titles, things that have been out for some time, are just like dwindling or nothing's really happening to them. And so when you do a weekend play for free sale, and it's a game that's been out for a year plus or something, and nothing major's happened, or a lot of times you'll see companies who will do sales right before or along with an update, a major update to the game, or a DLC or something like that is a major piece. That they're like, really, the game's been out for this long, that's as much as we're going to get, so let's sell the game for cheap and sell the DLC for more. Because if you're not going to have the DLC in the first place,
sure,
or you're not going to buy the DLC if you don't have the game.
I think a sale is a different concept than reducing price over time, right? I mean, I agree with that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Christmas sales and stuff, I've always enjoyed it. But at the same time, do we need there to be special sales on to buy games at Christmas? We'd do it anyway, wouldn't we?
Well, for the most part, but I mean, there are psychological aspect to it, true. But there's also, for me, like I said, there's a lot of games that at full price I never thought to pick up, but because my friends still play this game a year in, and they've told me about it, I've kind of been on the loose end of like, maybe I'll play it. But then it goes on sale for a very reasonable amount. It's a lot more likely that I'll say, oh, well, everyone said it was good, I'll try it now. I mean, it's old, it's been out, it's not like there's anything fresh, but people are still playing it, so now I'll check it out. That's just my idea there, because that's how I've picked up many games where I've looked. In fact, I almost picked up, was on sale right now, it was like Divinity or something.
Divinity Original Sin, yeah.
Something like that. The enhanced one's like $10. And since it was a multiplayer game, I was kind of like, I mean, it's been out since 2015, but for $10, maybe, $9 or whatever. I didn't still, but it actually brought that conversation into my mind. Because like every game I put on a wish list, I do love how Steam comes out and says, hey, this game you obviously at one point thought you might want, they put on sale. Do you want to get it now? And so it goes back and forth. But anyhow, yeah. I like that in general. It sounds like they have a very solid, like, going forward business model.
Absolutely, yeah, and I do like that. The other big thing they said at the bottom of the article is they go on to say about how they don't want to pay for advertising. They don't think that's natural. They think that games journalism should not be paid off. They don't want to pay advertisers and be annoying, having banner ads and stuff. They'd much rather just have it grow, have natural growth. You know, if people want to tweet about it, want to write articles about it or reviews, they should do that naturally. You know, organic growth as they call it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fantastic point, right? If a game's worth talking about, people will talk about it. If you need to go and spread it around, maybe it ain't worth buying, right?
Well, there's two sides of that, because the challenge you have is in a market that is, I often say, saturated by good titles, that, you know, as much as we may complain about certain trends in the gaming industry, I still argue in general it's great time to be a gamer, because for me there are more games than I think I could ever find time to really play well.
Is that a good thing? Surely better once automation comes in, we have nothing to do but play games.
Well, okay, if we get to a point where technology allows me to spend all of my time doing fun creative pursuits and not having to, you know, make the sausage anywhere and spend my time doing things I don't love, awesome. Down. Do that all day. But in an era just, yeah, and I'll say it this way, it's more like, because we are now adults and have to pay the bills and do all the work stuff, but when we grew up in our heyday of gaming, when we had time to sit down and play the same game for hours on end over the weekend and stuff like that, or after school, whatever, if I was growing up for the first time as a gamer today, I don't know what I would do. There is so much out there available.
Well, one thing we wouldn't do is play LANs. That's one thing we would definitely miss out.
That is something that is gone today for the most part, except for the fact that I force it to happen every 3 months.
Well, that's true, but we wouldn't. But we wouldn't have known it existed really if we were born in this era.
In this era, everyone would have to get their own thing, and
like I do have a couple of friends that are a little bit younger than me, and we do sort of like couch potato playing games. You know, like they'll bring their
actually be in the same room.
Yeah. Well, like I'd bring my PlayStation over to theirs, so they'd bring their PlayStation here. We bring down our bedroom TV or whatever. So there's two TVs next to each other, and play like Diablo or something, but across two PlayStations instead of on the one, so that it has the, you know, you're not stuck in the same area. It adds a little extra to it, and it means that you can, you know, you get the full screen to yourself. You don't have the split screen or anything either. So it's pretty neat to do that, but that's hardly an accessible solution for most people, right? Oh, just get a second PlayStation and a second HDR, 50-inch TV, because we all have those lying around, right?
Hey, it is what we do. It is what we used to do in the old days, and what I still do at my LAN parties. You just have your mates bring theirs over as well, and I have been to a old school Halo LAN where you had to bring over multiple Xboxes and televisions, and I remember the days, car we drove in had a TV in the back seat resting against stuff, and so I remember doing that. I didn't do that often because I was used to PC, but I still say it's possible. Great,
I can't wait for the Master Chief Collection because I'm waiting to relive those days.
Well, so it's funny, right? The Master Chief Collection coming out on PC. One of my challenges with that I didn't realize, because when I first heard it, I was like, oh, that's awesome, I can't wait. And then I stopped and said, wait, I already have it on my Xbox. I don't need it on PC. I don't need to buy it again.
Most people don't have an Xbox, though. Most people either have a PlayStation or just PC.
It is interesting because that's been kind of a common thread today, is that people have basically stated the Xbox has kind of failed. I don't know. It's not the primary system out there.
It's lost the war.
And so, yeah, I have heard words along those lines. But, we'll see. But, yeah, no, I got you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that was the Factorial thing. That was pretty neat. I like the fact that they actually... It's also cool that they're kind of open about this and telling people what their marketing plan is. You don't see this from companies, right? Most companies are just like, we'll do our marketing, but we're not going to talk to the players. They don't matter. We don't want to let them in on it and feel like they're part of this journey together and where we can learn from each other. God, no. Communication. Terrible idea. So that was good of them. I'm really impressed by their their standards. So the reason another reason I want to bring this up on this part of the show was I commented on a Facebook that when the Factorial's Facebook page posted the link to their blog saying all this stuff, I commented on it saying pretty much what I've said so far. That, hey, you guys are fantastic. I love that you stick to your guns in terms of ethics, and I wish more games companies were like you in that regard. You know, no microtransactions, none of that bull crap, but producing solid, good games and having that community interaction, etc. And I got the first thing I got was an angry react to it, and I was like, "What? Who would be mad at me for saying I like this company? Well done." Somebody else who must like the Factorial page has angry emoted my my comment here, and I was like, "That's weird." So I went and checked the comment thread, and yeah, there was this dude who I'm not going to say his name, obviously. Yeah, 13 likes now on my comment, right, and one angry. But this dude also commented himself. I'll see if I can find his comment. Ah, there it is. So he said, "I love this game, but I am really very, very angry. I have bought the game for a few years." I don't know how he could buy it for several years. It must take a very long time to buy a game.
I'm assuming he bought it years ago.
Yeah. And I'm still waiting for them to add new and refreshing content. What? Dude, have you played any mods? I mean, like, why did they need to release new content?
Okay.
Like a
admittedly,
sandbox.
there are people who do not mod, right? It does happen. But in
that's
games
not an
like that,
excuse.
but I'm just saying, in games like that where you're experiencing that after you've played it some length of time, the mod scene does what mods do and has expanded the game significantly. You know, for someone who is only playing the original...
I have bought this empty canvas, and I am upset that they haven't released Empty Canvas 2.0. And it's like, well, just get some paint and draw on it. No, I refuse to do this. This is against my understanding or something. I don't know. I will. Like, why would anybody not do that? Like, the mods they're in the game. You click on mods and you can search in the mod library in the game. You don't need to do anything.
It would be very easy to do. I'm just saying.
Or by popularity, so that you can even get an idea of what's good. Right.
I am somewhat asking, or working as devil's advocate, not fully, but to a degree, that some people don't live the life we live, and may not understand that they could have a better experience if they took a little time and simply modified the game.
That's true. And so he goes on to say, and since then, nothing new to return to. They can spend it in marketing what they want, but they will only throw the money into the water. Well, the article clearly said they're not going to be spending money on marketing. They're going to do it organically. So he clearly didn't even read the article. And he goes on to say, take and put tons of new content and you will have more players to the order of the day. His game was successful. I'm guessing that means this game was successful because the idea is good, but they have fallen asleep on their laurels. But they do a weekly update saying all the stuff they've been doing, and it's usually like some pretty advanced, like mechanical, deep end stuff to make the game nice and polished, to make sure the mechanics work correctly, even in the most like rare of stuff, rare scenarios. Like I don't, and everybody was just laughing and angry at him this comment. Like, what is this dude on about? Like, who could be that mad about Factorial?
Maybe he's so used to a standard of today's gaming where, because of lack of microtransactions and Factorial and stuff like that, he doesn't get the cookie every day he plays, and he's used to other games or other titles where that is much more apparent. And so
maybe it's too hard a game for him and it's not rewarding him enough. You're right. So there's a few comments in response to him. They said, "Bull crap. The content as is satisfying. New experimental version changes, science pack recipes. It changes a lot. Would you rather they put on crap loads of crappy half-assed content onto a bug-ridden game and then started releasing paid DLC before it's even finished to 1.0? No, I like that they work hard on producing a polished and balanced game. Also, they provide tremendous support for their mod community. Ever consider looking there for more content?"
Yeah.
And loads of other people commented similar things. I have, some people are saying, I have 3,000 hours in the game. I have 800 hours of fun. I got it for $20, and it was the best, probably I've spent my life. Consider modding to solve it. Like, it's just, I think the guy was just way out of line. But it's the fact that he both wrote that comment, scrolled through the others, and was like, "Oh, that Ken guy said he liked it." A-hole.
Well, so it's interesting because I've done reviews of things, and on my review, I've had people come in and comment with somewhat their own opinions or their own experience to somewhat counter my opinion. Where they were just like, oh, well, this company did me wrong in this way, and therefore nobody should ever support them.
Oh, right. Well, that makes sense.
And I was kind of like, okay, well, that wasn't my experience, and my video is about my experience with them. But thank you for sharing. I hope people keep that in mind as well. Right? Because I can't speak to someone else's experience. I can only speak to mine. And so, but there are some people who get so up in arms about their opinion of something that they will find every opportunity they can to speak out on it, even if it's kind of almost taking away from what someone else has said or done. You know, they'll find that opportunity for their platform.
Yeah, it's literally the sort of joke in the title of our other show, Your Opinion is Wrong, right? It's like they take that seriously. It's like, you posted an opinion piece. Here's why you're wrong, because I don't agree with it. I don't agree with your opinions, and therefore it's objectively wrong, and let me express why. Right? It's just dumb. So that's pretty much everything I want to talk about this geeky and that sort of topic. I have one other thing I wanted to mention that I've done this week, because I'm kind of proud. So last night we had a couple of friends around for we decided to play a game of poker.
Nice.
And it's always good fun. And, we had a couple of drinks, and I bought us a bunch of snacks and stuff. And we made sure that we had, like, £5 ins. So that I find poker kind of dull if there's no gambling, weirdly enough.
You need the stakes. Yeah, you need the stakes.
But without, maybe if you made, like, a tournament, like, monthly or something, and, maybe there's a ranking or something, and something to make it feel like it's worth, like, you want to win. But an easy way to do that is just put £5 in, and besides, if you play enough times with the same group of people, you'll find that the money tends to rotate round anyway, right? You'll win 20 that week, the next person will win 20 the next week. It usually works out evenly, and even if it doesn't, think of it as spending £5 for
whatever you would be doing to hang out with your friends.
Yeah, it's a cheap night, really. Think of it that way, with a chance to possibly walk away and profit. Like, who wouldn't enjoy that? So we played a game, and I'm happy to say that I won.
Hey!
There was 4 of us in total, so it's not as if it was like a big crowd, and it was only £5 in, so I walked away with £20, which was nice. So that felt pretty good, and considering I hosted anyway, so it pretty much just evened out the cost of hosting. So in terms of getting snacks and stuff, so it was fine, right? It was good fun though. I felt bad though because the first person out was Kitten.
Oh no!
And I put her out. So I knew it. Like we were on that hand when she was just about to go out, and I was like, I know I'm going to win this because I think I had a flush or something, and I knew because she was betting so early on. I was like, she doesn't have the flush. She's betting for something else, and unless she has something ridiculous, which I know she can't, or by fluke has a flush. I'm pretty sure I've got this. So I just said, I'll match whatever money you have left. And she was like, fine, let's do it then. I was like, fine. I couldn't not do it, right? And yeah.
Oh, so that went all in. Oh, she did.
Yeah. She was really good about it, actually. Like, I always struggle. If you get put out early in poker, it's a real pain, right? Because the game usually goes on for, usually with 5 to 8 hours.
It can last a while, depending on how many people are playing and how it's going back and forth. And so depending on what else you have to do or where you're hanging out, that can be like, well, what do I do now? It's often why a lot of the games we play, we allow for rebuys. And I don't play poker much, mind you, but most places I've been have rebuy, where you can, if you're out, you can put in a little bit more money to the pot to jump back in and keep playing.
We said at the start of the night that's available, but nobody took it up anyway. But she was very good about it. She got out within the first 2 hours, and I think we went on for about 5. So she sat there for a good 3 hours, just sort of watching. But she was having a good time, just chatting with us, and
Oh, good.
and just having some snacks and having a couple drinks and relaxing. And it was nice. Cause I know that I personally really struggle once I'm put out of poker. I get kind of mad. I'm like, I feel like I've let myself down. I'm a little competitive, I suppose.
Gotcha.
And yeah, so that always annoys me. But that was good. I had a good fun. I had a good time last night, and hopefully we'll do that again in a month or so. The next thing I wanted to say, the very last thing, was I just noticed this when we started the show because I just pulled my laptop out of my bag. So every week I go to the university to do some laundry because I like using their big machines because it's much easier than using my tiny little one. You know, I can do like a week and a half's worth of washing in an hour there, whereas
Gotcha.
here I can spend 8 hours across a week doing an hour a day. You know, it takes a long time. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's well worth the time. But I just noticed that when I was walking back in, I had my laptop bag on top of the washing so that I could carry both at the same time. That my laundry bag, the handle snapped
Oh
when I was
no.
walking across a road, and my laptop bag fell off the top of the laundry bag because it tilted, like 45 degrees, and I heard a smack. But I didn't really think much of it at the time. I thought, oh well, it's quite well padded, that bag. I didn't really think, and it wasn't that far a distance. It was maybe a foot.
Okay.
But I just noticed it's quite minor, I guess. It's just cosmetic. But I don't know if you can see down here in this corner here. Can
Okay.
you see it all?
I see
there's a
what
little-
looks like a little line.
Yeah, it's raised up now. It's cracked off a bit, a chunk of it there, which is a little annoying.
Oh.
So that means 2 weeks ago I lost my W key for the laptop because I was sitting eating like crisps or something. Yeah, I was eating crisps and or chips as you say in the US. And I took a bite of one, and like a tiny little sliver of it went off and landed on the keyboard. And I'm not the kind of guy that will just leave that there. I'm like, oh, that's horrible. I don't want food on my laptop. So I was trying to get it, and I accidentally pushed it under the key, and I was like, oh, I'm sure I can just lift the key up slightly. And
Oh, no.
Yeah, they snapped, and I was like, oh. Well, maybe I can fit back on, and it was broken. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just replace it online. Looked around online for about an hour, and it turns out the only thing I could do was go to a local place in Glasgow, who said I'd have to buy an entire keyboard set worth of keys.
Oh,
And I was like,
man.
well, how much would that be? They said £85 and plus their time. I was like, £85 for a W. I was like, I can use it anyway. It just cosmetically doesn't look great. So that happening, and now this. I feel terrible. Every bit of technology I've had, I've never had so much damage done to it. I feel terrible.
So my question about your usage of the W key, does it, like if you press where the key was, does it function?
Yeah, it works fine. It's like a that little thing in the middle of a keyboard that you get the nipple right
Yeah,
in some
yeah.
keyboards. It kind of feels and acts like that, but except you can press down on it.
Okay.
I'm a bit concerned that for the long term. I'm worried that I might damage it over time or something, but it's working fine.
Well, I was going to say, you should be able to find somewhere online a keycap for it.
The problem is it's a specific type of setting that needs to be put into it to hold it in place, because it's not just the actual top bit; it's the internal structure to hold it in place. It's also being
It's the
snapped.
whole cap, yeah.
Yeah, so and find the right. So there's a lot of them for similar laptop brands, but not for this specific brand that I can find anywhere online that isn't either sold out or requires to buy a whole key set and go in store. So I'm just gonna leave it for now, and maybe one day do something about it. But I'm quite upset because I'm still paying off this bloody thing, and I love this laptop, and I can't believe I've done so much damage to it. I've had so many computers over the years, so many phones, not one cracked case, not one scratch on anything. And two things in 1 month. I don't know what's going on. It's
That
just
feels bad.
it's upsetting.
I understand.
It's
Oh, boy.
And I think that's pretty much everything from that I wanted to bring up anyway.
All right. So just other things, dysfunctional deviations have been geek. Let's see. So for me this week, I'm trying to think if I have anything really of note that hasn't been geek this week. I've spent a good share of my time working on martial arts training, primarily because I am coming out, or was it not this coming weekend, but the following, so two things. I won't be on the show, not this next show, but the weekend after that, because I will be martial arts training over the weekend. And that Friday leading up to it, so the 17th, I have a test that I will be doing, or evaluation, to see if I can earn my Sandan, my 3rd degree black belt. And so I have been doing a lot of mat time this last week, and will continue into next week.
So you're sore is what you're saying?
A little bit, but not in the way that'd be normal. It's combination of, I don't know, mental exercise in the sense of what I am trying to accomplish at this level is not just punch, kick, do the thing. There's strategy involved with how I have to position myself and maneuver, and there are very specific ways I'm supposed to move and bend my knees and things like that to ensure that what I'm trying to do I can accomplish. And so between all of that, it's a kind of refinement on my movement that I haven't had to do before. And so that's, it hits me in a different way. It's not just mental, it's much more, well, it's not just physical, I'll put it that way. It's more mental and things about how I have to accomplish whatever I'm doing. And so that's a piece. Let's see, what other things do? All of a sudden I heard noises and I was thinking wait, is that my computer? No. So mostly that. With it, traveled up to Boulder a couple times where the actual martial arts school is there to be able to do some of the training, and that's where I spent most of my time. Let's see, are you still there, Ken? If not, you look very still. I'm thinking that we have lost him. Maybe that's what I heard. Because all of a sudden, I was looking at his screen as I looked up, and I was kind of that is awfully he looks very still. He does not sit like that. There it goes. All ended. Hopefully, I'm still online. Do you guys still hear me? Looks like I'm still streaming. I'm concerned solely because there are times when that has happened, and it ends up that it is me where the whole stream dies and everything's over. And so I was just trying to make sure that that was not the case. So, all right. Hopefully, as Ken is still chatting, he will try to call back in, or I will hit it there and see if it goes back in.
That was weird.
Hey, there he is.
I was here the whole time. I heard you for, my whole screen went black.
Okay.
And then I heard you for a few seconds, and then I went back in, and the call ended. It was weird. I think it must have been a video driver thing. Hopefully, nothing hardware related. Oh God. Please be okay, laptop.
As you're talking about the challenges of the laptop,
I know.
You're
please be okay.
Don't let this be the
I need
sign.
you
The first sign that things are done.
I'm going to back up my work while we talk, by the way, just in case.
No, I understand. Take care of that.
Yeah, I'd be quite upset if I lost
all of that.
Months of coding.
Oh yeah, no, that would be terrible. I understand. So no, that has been the main thing. Other than that, let's see. I have almost finished reading The Sundering. I'm at the very last bit of it, which is the 3rd book in the Ancients series, where basically I'm at the end of everything being set in motion for the sundering of World of Warcraft. In Warcraft, the continent that was originally won, with the destruction of the Well of Eternity and all that. And it was a good book, a lot of fun. So I'm hoping that still part of me wants to go from there and maybe jump back into WoW some more, since I'm paying for the sub, to at least kind of run around the world and see some of those things. Again, try to find the results of the stories I've read. Probably a big one would be to go visit Copy's favorite antlered boy, Malfurion, the first druid. Just because now with better context of who he was, being able to go visit and picture him in game might be a little more meaningful. Something like that. And so... yeah, that I've been doing that.
Tyranta. You don't remember? I don't know if you did that, dungeon. It was in
Well, so that's the thing. I haven't played any of that, and so for me it'll be more meaningful now that I know who the characters are.
Yeah, there's a dungeon in Legion where he was just a big wuss. And he basically gets captured by some dude, and the whole time he's just crying "Tyranta, save me, Tyranta!" And that's what his voice sounds like. It's because he's been infected by fear or something, right? But still, it's just dude, but you're supposed to be like a demigod. What are you doing?
I'll say that doesn't seem right. Not from at least what I think of his voice and stuff. I mean, come on
I know,
now.
right? You think he's gonna be badass, but no, he's just like, yeah.
Oh, that's good to or interesting to hear. Like I said, those are some of the kind of things I want to experience, to like check out and just kind of see what the world's doing. Now that I know some of the characters involved, and better understanding Illidan actually has been a fun part of that. And so, all of those things. Beyond that, it's kind of back and forth on the geek part. And so, that's the main things. Yeah, I think that's mostly what I've done that hasn't been geek. And so, I will go ahead and switch over to say geek stuff.
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek Cred, level up!
And the big thing I was going to bring up for my geek cred, let's see, like I said, cosplay is one. I am currently, and what I have in hand here is working on the pants for my costume for, 3 weeks from now? And that I honestly feel like I'm on a good pace. I'm not going to get everything accomplished I'd wanted to at my long-term goal side of things, which was to light the costume up with EL tape and stuff like that. That's still future things, and the blacklight paint stuff that I doubt I will get to on this build. If I can, I'll start, but I don't think I'll finish. But I'll at least get the base costume down so that Copy and I can go represent our KDA players for League of Legends. So feeling somewhat good. Like I said, I've got some trim that I put on the inside of the pants legs because it's one of those details that, depending on the level of cosplay that people have done, they can skip often because I'll just wear black stretch pants or something, be fine. I want to make sure to get that lining, and because I'm doing my own male variation of the Akali character, there's some creative license I'm kind of taking with it to make it match for what I believe as a guy I would wear for that kind of costume. But I think I'm on a good path as a whole to make this all work and get it where I want it. So we'll see how this goes. Partially why I was continuing in the show, because I finished up one leg while we were chatting. And we'll have a little difficulty starting the next because I have to pin it and do stuff like that. But yeah, we'll play through that piece. So costuming a lot. Still trying to figure out everything else I need to accomplish. But I have I think all of my gold fabrics cut now. Oh no, I still have to do the letters. So other than the letters for the hat, I think everything else is cut. And then, at least initially. And like I said, still plenty to do, but progress. We'll see what I can accomplish. That's part of where I was saying that I'm feeling some ups, and that I've at least done some of this. I was hoping to do more yesterday, but after a full day of martial arts, I was pretty wiped. And so I just kind of let it be and decided to instead watch some TV and relax. And so I've been continuing with the series, Baku, I believe, or Baki on Netflix, which is kind of an odd fighting one that now season 2's out. It's got this really weird art style, and it's bloody as heck, but in a weird way, because so far most people get so outrageously beaten and destroyed and down to a pulp, but don't actually seem to die. Like, they're so sturdy that everyone thinks they should be dead, and then they somehow come back because they're just that strong. Even with broken bones and skin flayed off and all kinds of just craziness. But it's really a fighting anime it's very over the top. So watching some of that, trying to think what other things I was finishing up watch-wise. Because I've slowly just been getting through a few series. Started watching Cancol, I believe it is, which is another anime about one that would, in a way, be totally against what you like, Ken, but at the same time doesn't have all the weeaboo stuff that you dislike. So it doesn't have like the over-animated tears or any of that nonsense, but the subject matter itself is just kind of a little silly, because it's people playing the parts of naval warships basically fighting each other, that there are these kind of monster-type ships that are out there, and that they have found, in the technology-wise, that people can sync up with the kind of machinery that they've been able to build to provide that same level of attack. And so it's just like people wearing... Really, it's basically a bunch of girls wearing, like, turrets and stuff on their arms and things like that. And so they're fighting as though they're warships, but they're also people. It's an odd one.
Are they schoolgirls?
Essentially high school girls kind of thing. There's a couple of middle school girls. But the weird part about it also is there's, like, no guys in the whole thing. And so there's none of the relationship thing you normally get in those kind, or the harem type thing. They actually skip all of that relationship stuff to just kind of go into more of a friendship discussion, and so it's more of an exploration of a bunch of... It's almost like an all-girls school, and they're just talking friendship things while their curriculum heads them learning battle stuff, and then when there's actually war stuff, they have to go out and fight. And there was, in one part of it, one gal did die, which was kind of like, oh, snap. So it's more like a relationship thing. But, Copy's throwing at me, go watch Strike Witches. I don't know that one at all, actually. I'll have to look up. This has just kind of been things that have been on my list for some time on Crunchyroll. I'm just slowly kind of kicking through as I'm waiting for second seasons of other things to come out. As I'm waiting for One Punch Man to not be exclusive to Hulu, because that's just the worst thing ever. No, but I do not support Hulu. And so...
No, Hulu's a bunch of bull. Like, why do they think they're competitive with that model? Seriously.
Do not understand it. The pay just to watch commercials model kills me, because I was on Hulu before that when you only paid to get rid of commercials, but then they got greedy, or their model wasn't working, so they had to do something else. But whatever they did, they didn't explain it well, and so now it's just money I don't want to spend for the content they have. And so I am salty about how Hulu has changed over the years, especially as every different organization out there now wants to do their own streaming service. So I'm eventually going to get back to the cost of regular cable when it comes to trying to have all the services I want.
Yeah. Yep. I had this discussion recently, actually, about how absolute bull that is. Because to get the variety we want without paying for additional crap, right? It's the same issue we had with cable, right? You first of all, but there was no channels. Like I remember when we used to have 4 or 5 channels, and that was it.
Yep.
And then you had to pay a TV license, and that was it. And on top of whatever else. Then broadband started to come up, and so did the idea of cable. And then suddenly we had hundreds and hundreds of channels, and we're like, oh my god, there's so many. This must be great. And then after a week, you realize that there's 3 you'll skip between the 3 of, and you'll pretty much ignore the rest. Maybe you'll have a sports channel you go to once a month or something. And then there's still hundreds you never use.
Yep.
And then eventually we were like, hey, why don't we just not do that and actually just get the benefit of Netflix, where we can just watch what we want on demand. And the channels still exist and stuff, but they've lost lots of revenue. And now we're getting to the point where there's multiple versions of Netflix. There's Netflix, there's Amazon Prime, there's Hulu, there's whatever else, right? There's even the cable channels have some of their own online versions now. And we're getting to a point where if you want to watch specific things due to exclusivity rights, you need to have pretty much each one, right? Like if you want to watch a bunch of good films, you'll need Amazon Prime, really. If you want to watch a bunch of good TV shows and Netflix originals or Friends, you'll have to go watch Netflix. If you want to go see Game of Thrones, depending on the country,
you need HBO.
Exclusive.
You need HBO.
HBO in the US.
Everything Marvel and Star Wars is going to be on Disney Plus and stuff like that. Comes out. So
which
that's
is
just
bull, by the way.
Oh no, and I understand they all want to take out the middleman and just keep all the money. But the challenge for us as consumers, it means, is now it's another tick, right? If I could instead dedicate that, and this is just as bad, I will argue to some degree, because if I could go to Netflix, and admittedly every service out there is also raising their price per month by $1 every 6 months or so.
Yep.
Because even that, my Netflix is now up to $15 or $16 a month because I'm paying for the full Ultra HD package.
Yeah, me too.
And now I'm kind of maybe I don't need 4K. Maybe I can just watch it in 1080. Why not? And if I could just pay an extra $2 a month for the Disney Plus being rolled into Netflix, and another this and that on the others, in a way, it's the same thing. But part of my challenge is I don't want to run multiple apps and multiple stores. And I want to have the one place I go and just say, play this.
Plus, some things don't work on other things, right? Like if you try to watch Amazon Prime on your Google, what are those sticks called? Chromecast. You won't be allowed to, right? Because Google's a competitor to Amazon. They don't want you to have your Amazon because of the Fire Stick, right? So they don't want to have your dirty Prime Video on the Chromecast.
How dare you?
There's hardware issues now, and that's just disgusting.
Which is all false gates that they have thrown up. None of it is a technological issue. It's all just decisions they've made for how they want to control our access to data. That's all any of that is. And that and so there's just so much of that. And it's something that admittedly here in the U.S. at least we're feeling again of what other countries have dealt with forever in acquiring content that is otherwise unavailable to them in legal means. And so it's that joke I did previous show about the dusting off the old pirate hat, that it feels as though the industry is creating again an environment where it may be worth a person's time to try to circumvent their ways of distributing information and find more convenient ways to get their distribution.
Who do you point the finger at? Is it Disney's fault for wanting to actually keep their entire income and not giving away 20% of their hard-earned work to Netflix or whatever? Like, I get it. I think that makes sense.
It does and doesn't. I mean, there's two sides. It's the question of what do you... they must believe they will gain enough money from this move that it is worth alienating part of their audience.
I think I've got a solution. What we do is we have a single service, a governmental-based, perhaps, service that you pay monthly to. And say you pay $25-$30, right? Which is probably what we do right now, anyway, right? And whatever you watch, your money is divvied up between those people, right? If you watch Game of Thrones, the money goes to HBO or whoever actually owns it, right? If you watch Marvel, something, it goes to Disney or whatever, right? And so on. So it's actually aimed, but you only have a single service and you have access to all the content, right? Why not? Why don't we do that?
I am not against, because really what we're looking for is one distribution mechanism, right? One place that I go to get all my information, and the one place to send my bill to. Much like, and this is where cable companies done messed up, right? If cable companies had been on the front end of this, or normal ISP, normal DirecTV, you name it, and allowed an internet-only option that they were paying you with your internet program, they gave you these channels, and oh, by the way, they created those packages as well, but absorbed it in such a way and worked out a deal with the Disney Pluses of the world that they will give them a decent piece of that, instead of at 20%, they'll negotiate 10% cost difference, and they'll make it so it's additional, instead of $9 or $10 a month, $5 a month on top of the package you're already spending. With some of those metrics, again, as a consumer, I just want the one place I can go to get it all. I don't want to have a dozen apps, or I don't have to worry about this smart TV doesn't have the app that runs this thing. That'll be an interesting challenge for the Disney Plus, is for the people like me who have a smart TV currently from a company. Is there going to be a Disney Plus app that now gets rolled into this older TV? Or, I mean, there's just all of those issues, right? Well, you'd hope that they go and try to do legacy, or do they only pay attention to what's new and what's easier to program for?
Well, I know that my TV occasionally updates, and
I get updates.
Has more ads.
Yeah. Oh God.
Which is his own discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. My brother in the chat saying that Apple TV service is kind of that as well. Now I would question, because I don't follow it. Does the Apple TV service have all of the content, or are they still limited by which ones they maintain? Because that is one piece of where they're doing a decent job. I don't know. There's just questions there, and Copy's been entertaining throughout this, kind of doing the little knocks on pirating life there in the chat, as well as Kuro reminds us that, oh, hey, by the way, Epic just bought Rocket League, and in doing so,
that was one of my big talking points today.
Yeah, that they're pulling it from the Netflix store, and not Netflix, from the Netflix store. Yeah, sorry, that's what we were talking about earlier, from Steam. Well, and that's one of the challenges.
You can't buy it on Steam, but you can still play it if you already own it.
Yeah, if you already have the license, it's there, but you're not going to be able to do future purchases there. And this is not the first time that's happened. We've seen several gaming distribution services do the same thing, where they've taken their content from what everybody's used to using because they want a bigger cut and brought it into their own. For whatever reason, they felt it was economically viable for them to create their own distribution source. Which, again, for me as a consumer, is annoying. Because I hate having to open up 5 or 6 different, updaters and different networks. Essentially, I have to have my Ubisoft one, Uplay. I have to have the Epic Store. I have to have Netflix. I have to have the Blizzard app. I have to have, you name it, just to be able to play each of my games. And so there's a lot of games in doing so that I don't bring up right away, and it sucks because then when I do want to play it, I'm behind the update curve, right? Because then I have to go back in and wait for updates to go because I wasn't constantly running their thing. And it's just super annoying in a way. And I do still think there is an opportunity for a company, hey, Babs, here's a business idea, to, on both fronts, create essentially just a front end for all the services. One
Yeah.
that you set up all your accounts, and I mean, it's what you do with Facebook and all these other things, right? That you can reach out from the one account to multiple, but you set up your one gaming hub that behind the scenes runs all the launchers, but finds
That's
a way
the problem,
to do
though.
it in a minimized way so that you, as a consumer, as a person playing, don't see them. That
The
automatically
technology
ties
isn't the problem.
all the chats together. That automatically ties that
That'd be
will
nice.
help you set up your accounts so that you have the same kind of user interface name. So that from your perspective, you just have your gaming interface up, and that behind the scenes, it does all the work for you. So you just have your whole list of all the games you want.
That would be great. But
And
the
it could have
problem
the
with that is
stores,
the
it could have
legality,
everything.
Right?
Well, why? You're not taking away from them. They still use the services to do their sales, to promote, do things like that. And there's probably a way that you could, the advertising they do for buying their stuff could probably be in the feed from all of them, that you like give them all time on whatever feed you do. I think there's a way you could.
They want to have it all.
Well, but that's the
Right.
thing. All the purchasing and all the sales would still go to each of those services. And this is why if you did it on your own,
Yeah.
you could
You're talking
find a
about
way.
advertising.
Well, but again, you just re-show theirs. For your end,
Okay,
you would
here's another
have.
good point actually. Netflix, a large part of their intention, so they've got each company will have a plan, right? They've got a stratagem that they want to implement over the next number of months in order to make more money, right? Netflix's big one is that they are pushing heavy on Netflix originals. Because that way, the more people that watch Netflix originals, the less money they need to pay to somebody else to get the license, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense for them to do that. So if you went to this conglomerate app that had 6 streaming services, Netflix's originals may only be shown a sixth as much as they were before. Netflix would not be okay with that.
But I still think there's a way you could do it where if you are, because a person still has to have their account through those companies, and so you're just providing an aggregation for them all, a way that the user, it basically just is another layer of translation between what the user sees and the app, and so you just run basically all the apps in a headless mode behind the scenes. I mean, I think it could be done legally because you're not having the people still have to pay for the stuff through those apps and through those things.
I think you'd be opening yourself to a lawsuit, and plus I think there'll be a terms of service thing that says you must access it through our app only. No third-party APIs allowed, right? And as soon as you go past that,
I still think there'd be ways to do it, but that would be my desire as a consumer, right? And that's for both the
absolutely.
video side of things as well as the gaming side, where how I access, I would like one, interface for each, and not all the various ones. And I appreciate actually the discussion that's going on between, because as we're getting in there, Kuro's coming in saying that net neutrality might have something to do with all this. Netflix now pays more for the network overhead they need on networks like Comcast. Well, and that's the dirty deals behind and why I'm a big advocate of net neutrality. Plus just every company trying to pull their content and reducing what Netflix has because they want their own money. That my brother Babs is saying Roku of gaming services. I wonder if that is Discord in a few months. And it's interesting because Discord shows signs of that. I've never launched games from Discord, but they have stores and stuff like that. But it's definitely where I go to chat. Currently, it's unique chat because I don't believe I can bring in like the Blizzard chat and world into it. But I can see that as being a front end for it. Or as Kuro says,
Discord became more of a gaming hub in general because I just like it.
They're doing something, right? Because you go to the front page.
It's a lot more modern than using Steam for chat, for God's sakes. Who uses Steam these days if you
although
use Discord?
I'll give credit, Steam, while late to the game, did make they've updated their chat in very good ways. I just don't care anymore because it's too late to use. Now I use Discord.
Exactly.
And so, same kind of thing. And so, I don't know. It's just so interesting that way. Oh, yeah, and one of the biggest issues that we've talked about since, and this is an old discussion Babs brings up about the whole Netflix concern or not Netflix, but I think the Steam concern from back in the day as it being the first real distribution store. The issue that the consumer is going to be unhappy when some stores close, taking your games with them. That's going to be like one of the biggest challenges we see. At some point, it's going to happen. We haven't seen it really hurt yet, but some point...
This is not a gaming thing, right? This is a general modern
it's
media,
licensing.
digital media
Yeah, it's a
problem.
licensing and distribution issue completely. It's as we have gone away from physical media, where I still have my original World of Warcraft Battle Chest box and discs up on the shelf, my original Syndicate box, and things like that of games that I have physical media for, that... What happens when any distribution service disappears? What happens to all these licenses and stuff when I look at my Steam store that I have mass things for? the discussion's been there are ways you could do that. If anything that was going to go under, if they were good for their consumers, they'd create a standalone licensing service, something that you could download the license or key for each one of yours and run like your own basically back-end service that allows it to authenticate and just to be no more updates, stuff like that. And so there's ways they can manage it, but the challenge is if a company just drops overnight, then what happens?
Yeah.
And I can imagine the lawsuits.
I hope there's... Again, this is where the government needs to step in again, right? Without a government here to protect us, or some kind of legislation that means that this is not legally a company that has these kind of requirements cannot just close the doors. They need to make some kind of backup, some kind of net to catch everybody, whatever. Even if it just means literally handing out keys, right? Like, here's a key, here's a key, here's a key, here's a key. Just go and redeem them. It's in your email, right?
In some way, like you reattach your key and maybe it gets distributed to another company. I don't know. But something.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. Like, imagine just say Epic Store closed, like say they went bankrupt from buying too many exclusives or something, right? Could happen if Fortnite wasn't so successful. And then if they just said it redeem all on Steam, I'd be like, okay, not complaining, right?
Well, the one store that has done this correct in a way that probably won't hurt you is GOG, Good Old Gaming, because all of their stuff is DRM free. And so, at least with GOG, when you download it, you don't need to authenticate every time you play. You just eventually put it on your, in your drive. And so, in the end, I'm hoping they keep an eye, because I like how GOG's been growing as well. That's one of the few stores I don't mind as much, because I like theirs because it's not so much that I need them to play the games. It's that when I've bought a lot of things on Humble Store sales, or things like that, or just other things going through GOG, and being able to just install them when I want them and throw them away when I need to if I want storage space. I still have the license, right? It's just getting the file, the actual game then. So I don't know. There's so many things about this that are concerns that thankfully I don't see as an issue today. And I don't see it happening soon, but I am aware of and in general concerned. Or just I'm keeping that thing on board that if I see anything that comes up that's like, here's when it's happening, I will be loud and all over the place. And so, yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because our audience is kind of going back to the idea that piracy is the solution. Because pirates, what do but break a lot of DRM and copyright stuff to allow you to play it without having to authenticate. So I'm sure somebody will figure it out.
Solution. Piracy is the
temporary
solution.
It's the response. It's the response to what's happening.
It's the resistance, right?
In a lot of ways. Well, it's the article we talked about.
It's the vote for
change. It's showing.
Okay. Here's a similar thing in the UK right now. Our local councils. We had an election the past couple of weeks for the local council elections, and the main leading party, the Conservatives, which is basically our version of Republicans, they lost 470 seats or something like that, I think.
Out of about how many? I mean, that sounds like an immense amount.
Out of thousands, right? Because it's councils, so it's very small areas. But out of thousands, they lost hundreds, which is still a lot, right? Their main competitor, Labour, which is not really Democrat. It's kind of like the working man's, or at least it used to be the working man's thing. Now it's kind of slightly more socialist. But they're kind of muddied the waters as to what they are these days anyway. But anyway, they're the main competitor, but they also lost hundreds of seats. So we did a protest vote effectively, and this tertiary backup party that nobody really likes due to some recent history got hundreds of votes. The Liberal Democrats, they got hundreds and hundreds of votes because we were just like, nope, the two main parties. Up yours, we're not doing it. We're going to go vote for anybody else. And what I was really happy to see is the Green Party, who really struggled to get any seats. They're just the hippies, right?
Yeah,
I vote for them. I love them, but they are the hippies. They got hundreds of seats as well, which was awesome because they are the right now. Like, screw Brexit, right? Like, who needs Brexit? Who cares about it at all compared to saving the world from a disaster, right? That's kind of my view on things. But anyway, aside from the politics, my point is the protest vote, right? Instead of us saying we need to go for the streaming services or cable, let's instead say protest vote, piracy. I'd actually ever advocate for that, of course. That's just all theory.
Well, hey, I understand why certain
Absolutely.
groups are making the decisions they are for how they're going to continue to play games, enjoy their content, do whatever they feel is necessary. And it is just something where it feels that certain decisions that the industry is making currently are potentially pushing people into some of those decisions. And so I don't want to hear the industry complain and go, "Meh." I mean, this is something that, Babs, this goes all the way back to your previous industry when I was going to do the demo for you for, at the time, music piracy. And when they were trying desperately to shut down Napster at the time and saying that was the prime issue, when it was really like, no, it's that you guys have terrible mechanisms for distributing music. That was the issue at the time, because that was at a time where they had yet to embrace how to sell an MP3, essentially, or a digital license to something. And I had a whole demo set up to show like a dozen ways to acquire music that weren't Napster. And that the industry was so slow to figure out the issue. And then go figure, today, years later, they've actually kind of figured it out. And it goes all of it goes back to easier distribution at reasonable cost. People are so willing to, and Babs, if Mubu had existed right when you could sell digital music, you guys would have been the top. But they were ahead of their time by far. That it was something that once they figured it out, now you've got, as Crow's putting out there, Google Music, you've got Amazon Music, you've got iTunes Music, and I think most of them are more about where you like to hang your hat, where you get most of your things, than it is competitive, because I think, as far as I've seen, they all have similar music. As well as you can do things like streaming services, like Spotify and other stuff like that allow you to have access to which ones are there, and some that you pay for more music than not, with a little less direct control, and you don't really own, or something like that. It's like having a satellite radio station that is a little more configurable. Things like that. So, again, now the music industry, 15, 20 years late, has figured it out, and piracy's reduced. But here's the same issue. If they go back to an older model and make it so that if every different distribution service for music decided to do their own thing, if every different music producer had their own store, it would die. People would just be like, I'm done. I don't care anymore, right?
Yep.
I'm not going to go chase my music. I want it to be easily consumable.
Yeah, like Whirlpool or whatever that crappy new music service is called.
And you've seen other ones have started dying because nobody wants them. I don't want to go pick up a new service when I can just go to what I already have. That's already either on my smart device, my computer that I keep in my pocket, or on my computer or whatever it is that I do. Let alone having to
What's it even called? What's that stupid one? That dumbass.
Well, I've heard of like two other ones that tried to come out and then died, or basically nobody cares. I don't remember specifics.
Typhoon, something like that.
Hurricane, tornado,
it was
water
something
spout,
dumb.
something.
Music service. What's that? Kim Kardashian's husband?
I don't know. Why would I care? So with this, what we'll do, we'll take a break and let the music play.
Kanye
I'm going to
West.
play. Was it?
Kanye West.
Okay.
West's.
Oh, Kanye? I don't care.
Music service.
As you're figuring this out, we're going to take a break. Title? Again, something water-based that's out there.
I knew it was called something. It's called Tidal.
Okay.
Something.
Gotcha. And why is it... It looks like our chat window's not updating. What the heck? Why restream? Anyhow, I'll figure that out during the break as well.
We're talking, we promise.
All right, so with that, we will take a break. I'm going to play something from OC Remix. This one being, was it Funky Monkey Love? An edit. I'm actually pretty sure I've played this one before. So, but anyhow, we're going to play this, and we'll be back right after this.
Send in your emails to showx at VtWProductions.com.
So baby, I'm feeling kinda hot tonight, and maybe I'm thinking that the time it sure is right. Somebody told me that you like it rough. 800 pounds of gorilla, 800 pounds of the right stuff, girl. So come and peel my banana and eat it nice and slow. I'll take a lick of your candy, I'll make it mine for sure. And baby, you and we will make monkey love.
This here is Funky Kong, funky like a monkey. Donkey gets the ladies even though he's kinda chunky. He lays it down when Diddy's not around. Then he hops on Funky's flights and hightails out of town. Let me hit you up with some of that monkey love. Come here, girl. Yeah, boy. Lay it down, donkey.
You're late at night, girl. We'll break in at a zoo. And there in front of the monkey, I'll make love to you. Watch out for flying through. I said monkey love. Make monkey love. You know I need your
You're listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. And yes, was able to refresh the chat and let it try to change things over and catch back up for people on the stream. So we will see. And kind of discussing future tech options as we always try to make the show clean, fresh, and going good for everybody. So we'll see what we can do with that. So yeah. And it's funny because as Crow's bring up about the Streamlabs version of software, including OBS, it's okay and all, but I don't just stream to Twitch. I don't know. There's thoughts where it's basically the exact same software, so it's not a big deal. They just put a skin on it. Anyhow, as we were discussing, and you had figured out the answer just before the break on the whole what we're doing with that thing.
Yes, so that we're talking music streaming services and how we hate having multiple platforms, right?
Yes.
And I remembered, well, I didn't remember, I managed to find it, because I remembered the name of the dude who created its wife, Kim Kardashian, which I'm sad to have remembered. I couldn't remember her husband's name. It was Kanye West, which I probably should have known. So I googled his name with music streaming service, and it's called Tidal. That's what it's called. And yeah, he tried to launch it. I think it still exists, but I don't think it's doing particularly well because I think, well, at least here in the UK, like I'd say 95% of people who stream music use Spotify.
Huh. Okay.
It's just the absolute standard here. I don't know. Is it the same in the US?
I don't know. I'm sure there's metrics for that. But I have not checked or seen myself.
Interesting. Because I used to just listen to YouTube, right? That was my go-to. Like if I wanted to listen to music, I'd just play YouTube videos. It made no difference to me.
YouTube was always like meh. But
well, you could always listen in HD, which meant the audio quality was okay. And I mean, I actually have like dozens of playlists on my profile for that reason because I used to just update those. But about 3 years ago, I finally migrated to Spotify because I was going on a flight or something, and I wanted to have something that I could listen, where I could actually listen to music. So I actually used Spotify for the first time in like 10 years. And yeah, I use that now. And I quite like it because I like the fact that you can link it into Last.fm so you can track all your stats and stuff. And it's pretty cheap. I actually pay for the family package, and I have 4 friends that either pay me like a small amount per month, or they occasionally gift me stuff in exchange for me letting them have access to it. Which means that they have their own accounts. They're separate from mine. But, it's all paid for as one. It's like £15 a month. It's pretty good.
okay.
Anyway, yeah. So I'm not sure how we got to that point. Did you have more to bring up for your?
The other thing I was going to bring up was just cosplay and all that stuff is that I finally got some more progress on my server setup for all the hardware and things like that. I actually spent the last week while trying to give myself some moments of not sewing to rip apart some of my actual server rack and move hardware around. And so in doing that, I ripped out all of the essentially switches that I had in there that are kind of redundant and wasn't really using. And so I pulled out like 3 different switches that were in there just because they were filling space. One was like a 24-port 10 by 100 Dell switch, a 3-com 10 by 100 switch, basically older stuff that I don't really need. Pulled those out, and so now I finally mounted the Super Micro Dual Xeon server I have for the main, trying to build my NAS out, running FreeNAS on it, and I was able to throw in the 2, as I've now figured out, hard drive enclosures that I have that are working with it, that I had mistaken some issues about what was and wasn't working, and now that I had it all done, I actually have some redundant space now. So I am currently also in the search of hard drives, like lots and lots of just raw hard drives to use and fill the server with. So whenever a good sale comes on like 10 terabyte hard drives, let me know. Because right now they're not cheap. But in doing so, I think I have space now for one of the JBot I have, I want to say is like a 12 port or 12 bay. And the other one I have is a 16 bay. So I've got like 28 bays for hard drives that I can run. And I've got a LSI SAS controller board now that it'll support some 512, I think, devices and such. And so more than enough room for storage and things like that. And so I am hoping to now find a way to build that all out. But again, pulling things out, moving stuff in. So my server is nice and full now. And great. I did have to do some jury rigging because it's a very old server rack from HP that I was gifted at one time. And so the way
there's the problem.
Well, it's a rack, right? So it just has power rail and a bunch of areas to plug things in. And it works well, and it has a big fan in the bottom that circulates air and does stuff like that, and the power's been consistent with it. But it's just the way the mounting hardware works in it now is not modern. It has some very old, just big, like L-stock metal rails that go all the way back that you actually screw into the side with bolts to kind of adjust the height, and they're on sliders, so there's a little compression piece behind it, and the bolt scrunches in it, pulls it together. It means that you can move it it's an analog ability to move it up and down and not just using the server holes in the front for the thing. But in doing so, the problem is a lot of new server pieces are both bigger and smaller than those racks were ready for. And in doing so, it's like, it's just, you have to use those brackets to kind of hold up especially heavier items. The problem with that, though, is just like breaks, or some of the devices I have don't meet that standard. And so I had to learn some ways to like adjust it so that I could make some of these, because some of the bigger JBOD and stuff that I have in there are really back heavy. And so I either have to use those L brackets to hold the whole thing, but the problem is they're so big that using the bolts means you can't put something flush with the thing above it. The bolt's big enough coming out from the side that it interferes with the side of the actual like server or enclosure that you're trying to put in there. They won't fit together. So I took the screws out and was able to use the front holes to mount. But in the back, what I ended up doing is jury-rigging a thing where I took some of the... Have you ever seen the metal stock, like little metal flat wire type stuff that you use for ductwork, that you would hang ductwork for? It's basically a metal...
Dude, I don't know much about this at all.
Yeah, it's basically... Well, it's a metal strip that you use in housing that usually has multiple holes through it, and they usually make it as a quick way to just build a bracket somewhere. You just screw it in, and you can bend the metal fairly easy. But it's a piece of steel, just real thin. And so I have some of that for when I was working on some of the ductwork around the house for heating duct stuff. So I just used some of that, cut it just right, and used the back screw bolts that you would use normally to mount some of this new hardware, attached it to this now kind of bracket, this just like piece of metal, and put that to the back of the case where the bolt went through and tightened that down, and now it's just kind of hanging at an angle, this little piece of metal strip to the back, so it is hanging in the back as well to support it. And so I was able to do that and make things fit. And so I was able to modify this old hardware, and now I'm very happy. So that was a big thing I'm doing.
Cool.
And interesting is Bab's saying there's estimated spinning drives shipped 50% as of last year in consumer drives. The challenge I have is that while I would love to go flash drive for a lot of things or just solid state, the cost for storage is still so different. And honestly, longevity, because the platter drives I'm running, I will access constantly in a RAID format, and so they'll be constantly running back and forth and thinking.
Okay, fair enough. I was going to say that if they're actually used, then that's not the case. But if
well, the problem is
refreshed.
you're gonna with any SSD eventually you're gonna run into the max write cycles on it, and so which is fine in most people's regular computers, even on OS and stuff like that, because the way new SSDs move your bits, and so that it doesn't rewrite over areas until it has to. They're great for that. However, eventually they will brick on you. An SSD will absolutely brick, and likely faster than a platter drive. You're going to get great performance, amazing performance, but when I had an SSD brick on me, the first time I ever used one for a boot drive, it just stopped anything. Like, it wasn't accessible. It's just like, nope, I'm done. I've written and read all the cycles I can. We're done. And so it just was was the truest sense of a bricked event that I've ran into. And so I know a lot of data centers that run SSDs, but that's only if you really need fast transfer. And so for me, my goal would be to run, currently I'm running some of these old SAS drives, these 15,000 RPM drives that I got with some of the enclosure stuff I had, as cache drives to the larger RAID. And that way, for me, from a performance perspective, I expect I will see very fast read-writes. And then in the storage, I can put massive platter drives for redundancy. So that's my current plan. So, and that should match for what most people say. I'm not so big as that I think I need to go to RAID 6 yet, but I think RAID 5 will be fine for what I'm trying to do. And if not, Kuro, Babs, people who've done this, let me know. Educate me. But that has been part of what I've been doing for the server to help back up. My biggest challenge with this, and this is something I definitely throw out to the world, because I'm doing it this way, I'm trying to find the best way to create a third backup, like to maintain my online backup, because currently I use Backblaze, and I was using CrashPlan before that. The problem is that they don't really want you to online unlimited backup NAS setups. Go figure, because that would cost them a lot. And I've yet to find a good way around it. And the problem is that starts to become expensive the more space you're trying to keep backed up online. And so I'm trying to think if there's maybe my answer is to set up now an actual backup solution where the files I care about from the server, like the absolute must ones, I then run a backup solution that compresses it back to the current server I'm running, my old i3, that then uploads that backup set to an online storage. It's maybe smaller, but I don't know. I'm actually looking for suggestions on how best to do not only keep my normal in-person backup, but in case of fire, flood, all the things like that, how do I get an off-site storage? Or if my brother Babs maybe has, an equal setup with the rack in his house, that we can just start sharing the amount of storage we do around our family. We can all just, have a redundant backup between us and have many terabytes, maybe finally build out a petabyte storage solution between us. So, thoughts. Anyhow, that's where I'm at. Make my own network between people I know, that we all have our own storage things. So that's what I've got.
Could do it, but it's potentially dangerous as well. I mean, I don't. Please don't take any offense when I say this. But with that kind of solution, you're trusting a lot of people.
Well,
right?
The nice thing though is you can run it as encryption solutions, and so what you can do is you can run an encrypted backup, and you're just storing the encrypted backup on their storage. That way, if you ever need to rebuild it, you bring back that encrypted backup setup and rebuild yours once whatever catastrophe is over. So there's still ways to do it in a way that's not sacrificing your security. It's the same thing you're doing whenever you throw things online. You're trusting that their encryption solutions are doing the same thing for you. So, all right, I've geeked out enough on the technical side of boring. So, sir, it's all you.
I have one more thing to say on that. There is another issue of people online that are random people are not particularly interested in breaking through encryption and such a random person online, because you don't know that there's no worth to it per se. There might be a monetary cost, but there might not. There might be monetary worth, but there might be nothing, right? So breaking into somebody's stuff online is potentially worthwhile. But if you know the person and you know what kind of stuff they store or whatever, you might know it's worthwhile. Now, I'm not saying that this don't do this because you shouldn't trust your family or anything. I'm saying more along the lines of, in general, in the world of computer server architecture, this is an issue that is how it would be considered.
Yes.
So it's for everybody interested more than anything. Right. So Geek Cred. Jeez. So I watched Endgame on Friday.
Hey.
And that's pretty much all I can say.
Okay. Well, you could speak to it somewhat like I did, in the sense of, did you enjoy it? Right.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very good. Okay, I'm surprised. Okay, it's not a spoiler, right? Not unless you have no idea what kind of film it even is. Like, if you don't even know the genre, then you'd be surprised, perhaps. There is one scene, believe it or not, a battle. Whoa, I know, right? People fight in this film with superheroes. Who would have thought? And in that one scene, I thought the film was going to end. I thought there was going to be a secret sequel afterwards. Like, I was expecting that. I was expecting it to be like, maybe that's why everybody keeps telling me that there's no end scene credit thing, because the end scene credit thing says, "Don't tell your friends, keep this secret. There's actually a sequel or something," and that's what I was half expecting to happen. But thoroughly enjoyed the film. It was very good. I want to go back and watch all the films again now, because I feel like all the characters have so much more depth, and I just want to get all the in jokes that were throughout it, because I got a lot of them, but I want to get them all right, and it was just very good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Go see it if you haven't already. Now, I can't remember if we talked about this last week or not, but there was this a podcast I found called Clear+Vivid by Alda.
Okay.
Alda is the main actor from MASH. Now he's an elderly gentleman now, which is so strange to me, because the guy so he was born in 1936, right? So he's 83. And he was the lead character in MASH, which was first started in 1972, ended in 1983. But I watched it I've watched the whole thing 8 times. I love MASH, right? It's just a great TV show. It's just fantastic, timeless, really, because it's based in an army camp, right? Even though it's based in an older era, it's in the 70s, but based in the 60s, really. You think to yourself, you expect it to feel very old timey, but because it's in the army and they're kind of disconnected from everything anyway, it doesn't feel that old until you look at some of the occasionally they'll pick up a telephone. You're like, oh yeah, that's weird. It's a card telephone landline thing. That's weird. But you just think the majority of the time you just think, oh, it's just a crappy army hospital that's out in the middle of nowhere where they're probably not allowed mobile phones or whatever, and then it just doesn't even feel that old. If you do watch it, get a version without the laugh track. The laugh track is absolute cancer, but when you watch it without the laugh track, it's so good. So Alda is this fantastic actor from this fantastic TV show, and he is an old man now, and he started this podcast called Clear+Vivid, Clear+Vivid. He's also the head of a charity called it might be called Clear+Vivid as well, actually. I think it is. And basically, the purpose is to help scientists to translate jargon for the general public. So to communicate these sort of tough ideas of complex science down into something that the public can consume and enjoy and learn from. And it's a fantastic idea of a charity, actually. I really like it. It's teaching like medical professionals and such how to translate what they actually know about a patient to the family or something, right? I think that's fantastic.
Oh, neat.
Something that's not necessarily taught in medical school, right?
At least not enough of that good bedside manner.
Absolutely, right. And it's not just that, but across the whole of all of science, right? So this idea of being able to tell the general public what's actually going on instead of trusting, like
translate it for them,
articles.
versus what other people have translated.
Exactly. So I think that's really good. And he's a great guy, and I've been listening to his podcast. I'm a few episodes in now, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's really enjoyable. So, and I'm learning from it as well, actually, in terms of podcasting. So, completely unlike our show, he doesn't do it live, right? It's clearly edited.
Yeah, no, there is a big difference always between what you'll hear with like regular podcast type situations and any show that does a live audience thing, live interaction, live broadcast, because we don't edit, we don't polish, you get what we give.
Yep. But he has like a producer and stuff. Like they go through and polish it nicely, and they actually do it so that when they release an episode, you hear clips from the next one. Like that would never happen with us because we can't we were live, right? You can't. That would just be looking in the future. But they have like a season recorded before they actually publish anything, which is weird. But he's had some interesting guests on, some famous people. Including Sarah Silverman. He had all of the cast, most of the living main members of MASH cast on the show as well for a sort of mini reunion online.
Nice.
And a few other really interesting. He has interesting people like top worldwide famous violinists and stuff. And he talks to them about communication. He asks them interesting questions, and it's interesting because he asks them questions that could be asked to any human, but is particularly interesting because of who he's chosen.
Okay.
So at the end, he asks specific questions such as, I don't know, and he says you should only answer in a few words if possible. And one of the questions he says is, if you could understand any one thing, what would it be? And that's a tough one, right? That's a really tough question to answer. It makes you go, oh, Jesus. But he had this really famous, like, top of the field mathematician on. And he was, and Alan Alda said afterwards that he was expecting him to say, something to do with quantum mechanics or some advanced thing,
something
right?
sciencey that's like, wah!
Yeah, and the guy responds, I wish I could understand my dog.
Ha!
Because his dog does stuff. He doesn't know why his dog does stuff. His certain behaviors, he just doesn't get it. And I'm like, wow, that adds such a human aspect to this guy, who you see is this walking brain, right? Like that's what you see. But he's just a human who has a dog and doesn't get why his dog does weird stuff sometimes as well. It's just kind of it's a window into the human aspects of these big people. I thought it was really interesting. Another question he asks was, how do you get out of? How do you deal with somebody who won't stop talking?
Okay.
Like, what's your approach? What do you do? And to be fair, a lot of people he talks to are quite famous, so I imagine they are quite used to people who are like us, right? Won't shut up. Not that we're famous, but I mean in the sense that we just won't shut up. So they probably do have strategies like they already know of in their mind what to do with certain people. Sarah Silverman's response was something along the lines of, well, you can just let them finish, which I thought was pretty good. Like, I mean, you don't really think about that, right?
Well, there's
the box thing.
That's an interesting one, because that's a real life challenge I know I've suffered. There are times when you need to end a conversation because of timing or things like that, where it's literally, I need to run out of the door from this event to go to this other thing because I am scheduled to be there. I appreciate the conversation that I'm having with someone, but there's times where it's like, I got to go. And so I will say the things like, okay, no, that's awesome, and I'm happy you shared that with me. I got to run out of here, but thank you. And normally I can do that, but I have also run into those individuals who don't seem to catch that and just keep talking.
Yep.
And it's like, okay. And at some points, I've just had to walk away. I've honestly had to just like shut a door and say, all right, have a good day, bye.
I have definitely experienced similar. I've had occasions where I need to just I'm in the middle of chatting to somebody, and I need to just sort of say, I am walking towards the door, like, and they're still going. I'm walking. I'm like sort of pointing, like I'm going this.
I am honestly out.
Yeah, it's like I've got a carpool every day, right? I do a carpool at 5, so sometimes somebody will stop me in the corridor, and I'm like, no, I've got to go. I've got a carpool. I don't have a choice. Like I've got people to take places, I can't just stop here, and so I just keep going, and I try to explain, but So I guess the main thing is to kind of be firm and abrupt that you're with your intention, and it's difficult when it's somebody who's senior to you, though, right? You're walking away from them, and you're like, I need to be polite. Oh my God, this person's my senior. They might be my boss or something. I can't just walk away from them. But in the end, you have to remember that we all have lives to live, and even if you're being a little bit rude by cutting somebody off, you have to remember they're being rude by not shutting up, and second of all, you being a little rude by saying assertively, I need to go now. Thanks for the conversation. We should continue tomorrow. Goodbye. Right? That's a good life lesson. Something we just have to do sometimes.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I actually, there's something I forgot about when I was in the cinema on Friday. Speaking of being assertive, oh God, it was so embarrassing.
Oh,
I tweeted about it on Friday as well. So I got a new level of old man on Friday.
Wait, you being an old man, or you interacting with old people? There are two sides to our Ken stories about old. Okay, because it's either old women reacting to Ken, or Ken having old people moments. And so I just want to make sure we know going in.
Yeah. So there was this old. Sorry, there wasn't old. There was this. There was like 5 of us at the cinema to go see Endgame, and we're really excited, like most people are, because this is the end of a huge sequence of films, and we're all very excited. And there's this line of kids in front of us, like 8 of them, and they're all about 10, 11, 12 years old, approximately.
Okay.
And at the start of the film, they're all chatting, and they're excited, and I'm like, whatever, right? I don't give a crap if you talk through the ads. In fact, that's kind of enjoyable because it's better than hearing ads, right? And they're playing on their phones. I'm like, that's fine as well.
Yep.
Like,
during that time frame,
it's like, they're kids.
Yeah,
right?
during that time
all
frame,
fine.
it's mostly open. It's okay.
Absolutely fine. And I'd say about a quarter of the way into the film, they had continued, but I'd say they were about 10% of the original level. So they were kind of like minorly annoying, right? Like they'd giggle occasionally, and it was like, it's not at the point where I can't hear anything in the film. So that's the main thing. It's a little annoying, but
I was gonna say that's still like, why are you here if you're not here to watch the show?
No, this is definitely not spoiler because I can't even remember what point of the film it was. I just remember it was a quiet point that was supposed to be emotional and meaningful or whatever, right? Something important was happening, and it was you know what kids are like when they watch a romantic scene or anything that becomes vaguely anything that's vaguely emotional. They're like, and they start laughing and because they're awkward.
Generally interrupted because it's not at their level. They don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't get it, and so they started getting really annoying, and I noticed Kitten started going like I saw her getting pretty mad. She was sitting there, crossing her arms, staring down at them like I'm thinking about doing something, and I was like, I don't want her to have to deal with this. I'd rather deal with it myself. And I was tempted to go get like a movie attendant, like leave the cinema and go get somebody.
Yeah, could someone please take care of these kids? Yeah.
Yeah, like in the end, but I thought to myself, the likely thing is if we went and got an attendant, they'd probably kick them out. And I was like, did I think it's fair that these 8 kids lose out on seeing this film because they're being kids? I felt like maybe in an ideal situation, an adult would just say to them, "Shut up, we're watching a film," and they'd shut up, right? So I was like, well, I guess I have to be that adult now because the parents aren't here, and I really didn't want to get them kicked out of the cinema because I really felt that'd be unfair. So when they're in the middle of like kicking each other or something, and it was a particularly annoying point during a quiet part of the film. This was me touching and stuff. I leaned down and I said something along the lines of, "Guys," I tried not to be condescending. I didn't want to be too adult about it because that would be also a bad thing, right? So I was like,
I understand. You're trying to be relative.
We're trying to listen to the film. We can't hear it. Could you please be a bit more respectful? Thank you. And the first thing they did was go, like I heard them giggle. I was like, oh, crap. This is going to just make it 10 times worse. What's going to happen? But then they turned around and looked at me and they went, "Oh, that's a big dude."
You weren't
And they just
as
shut up.
old
It
of an
was
old
great.
person as they maybe thought they could ignore, and yeah. So
Ah.
when they rolled back, an unconscious intimidation check was made, where you didn't have to
Yeah.
roll for intimidation. Your passive intimidation score was high enough to cause them to
Yeah.
better evaluate the
I had
request.
considered it, right? I had considered leaning over and be like, "Shut up."
Yeah, just
Like,
straight up giving them the
nothing bad, but being a bit more
no,
aggressive
but being
about it.
direct. Let them know that you were serious. I understand.
But I was tempted to do that, but I decided, you know what? No, if I was that age, I don't want to embarrass them in front of their friends either. Like, I would hate that if some older dude, like, basically threatened me in front of my friends, and then I was like all sad. No, I don't. I want them to know that I treat them with respect, and I get where they're coming from. They're trying to have fun. But so I said to them, look, we're just trying to enjoy the film. Could you please be quiet? And they did. And it was like, the funny thing is, though, I leaned back, looked at my friends I was with, and they were all giggling, laughing at me like, old man, ha ha ha, you're telling off kids.
Oh man.
And I went bright red because I was embarrassed that I had to do that. And I was like, Jesus, I'm an old man now. I think that's a special level when you have to start telling off kids in the cinema. Feels like I just shouted, get off of my lawn. That's what it kind of feels like. So I did that. That wasn't even part of my Geek Cred, but I thought it was a story worth sharing. I have two more things to mention. One is I finished The Eye of Eternity, so the first book in the Wheel of Time series. Again, this is spoilers for the book here, so be prepared. I'm going to talk about the ending of this book and what happens at the very end. So you have had enough time to prepare for the spoilers for this book. Okay. So basically, at the very end, they get to the Eye of the World, and the group, including the Ogier, and they're hanging out, and they go to the Eye of the World, and they see it, and they're like, all right, that's neat. And they leave. And then these two male magician dudes, two male wizards, come up who are the evil dudes because they're male, which, funnily enough, is a normal thing in this because male wizards are tapping into a source that has been tainted and therefore they have turned evil if they use it. And so because they're evil and they start doing evil stuff, like they start threatening them first of all, of course, they do their spiel, and then they start a fight. The female mage that's with them tries to hold them off and does a pretty bad job. The main character, they all run away into the forest, and the main character runs up this hill, and he gets to the top of the hill thinking he can just run down the other side, sees it's a cliff edge, and he's like, crap. Turns round, Big Bad is right next to him. He's like, double crap. And the Big Bad does another spiel of, I've been looking for you for a long time. You are the main character. I'm going to kill you because you're the main character, and all this. And, yeah, and it's just like, okay. And this whole time, the main character has been, pretty lucky. He has a lot of friends who kind of look out for him. He himself has killed a couple of, minorly evil, minor characters. He's killed some of the, effectively, orcs the Trollocs. But he's never really done anything particularly impressive so far. That's literally it. However, we had hints of him being, some ultimate power that's, he's going to eventually progress to. I didn't really expect it to just come on suddenly there and then. For some reason, he has some sort of vision where he sees that the male mage in front of him is right. The male mage has this channel going into him where he's getting powered up or whatever.
Okay.
And the main character, for some reason, has a vision where he can see it suddenly. He destroys the thing. And then he himself gets pumped full of power and becomes some kind of god. Then he starts moving some mountains around to destroy some evil armies that are nearby. And then he goes into a dream where he dreams that he kills the ultimate Big Bad, which apparently has weakened him or something. And it's all kind of almost metaphorical without really describing what's actually going on, which kind of makes sense because it's very ethereal, right? He is dreaming. He's basically having a battle of the minds. Is basically what is happening, Like he brings out this sword of light in his dream, points at the big bad, and it just pointing at us enough, and it does loads of damage to him or whatever. And it's very confusing as to how the physics of all this is working and why certain things are working. It seems like just his mere thoughts are making things happen, and it's just very confusing, right? It seems like the world that he sees in his dream state is something that only he can see, that the big bad can't see in his dream state or whatever, but it can be used to influence things with the big bad or whatever, right? It's all very weirdly metaphorical, and it's a difficult thing to follow. And I don't know how I feel about... I usually find these kind of things in fantasy books where, you know, main character turns out to be super powerful and like powers up and does something cool. Like I'm usually like, oh, this is awesome, and I like hyperventilate a little bit and I get super excited. I didn't feel that at all with this. Not even slightly. I was just like, all right, like he's doing some cool stuff, but it just felt, it wasn't a build up. He didn't earn it. It just happened. It was just like it was very a Deus Ex Machina, right? It was very just, oh, he's about to die. Better just be saved by the ultimate magic.
Power. Well,
yeah, it was a little much. It was like I've still rated the book 5-star on Goodreads. I still enjoyed the vast majority of the book. I just said the last maybe 2 pages irritated me, or could have been done better. At the same time, at least it's something different than the norm, I guess. I mean, it's not the absolute norm it's not the same trope that you always see, which I suppose is a good thing. And I suppose the fact that this character's power isn't the level of Gandalf, it isn't the level of... It's more like the level of Goku, right? Like, this guy can apparently shift mountains with a blink of an eye. Like, it is an ultimate power. And so how do you describe that in a way that isn't catastrophic to the actual planet that he's on? They put it into a different reality, which is like a mind state sort of thing. And that all makes sense. I like it all. It just felt a bit too ethereal, a bit too I don't know. Too little imagery to explain what's actually happening. Too much metaphor.
Okay. So it's a challenge for me because it's been so long since I've watched all that or read it and stuff that I'm kind of like, I'm trying to remember the specifics. I know as a whole the series I quite enjoyed, and so there's like, I got, but I'm trying to figure it out. I'll have to kind of go back and skim, or we'll have to talk offline more details. So I can remember the exact scene. And it's that'll be interesting. Yep. And so, but I am curious to see how it goes into, especially starting the next book. Because like I said, for me, there's an anticipation I have of how you get introduced or how you spend more time with different characters and when different ones are introduced. Because there were definitely favorites of mine at different times throughout the series for Wheel of Time. And there are moments that I have absolute favorite characters that stand out heavily. And so I'll be curious to see what your thoughts are. Sure. And in response to the people on the chat right here, they threw in there that Kuro kind of came out saying he's been playing PT, which is essentially a remake for VR of Silent Hill.
Oh, cool.
And that, Copy saying she loved it. And both Kuro and Copy both basically say, stupid Konami. I'm assuming they canceled series or stuff like that, if that's the response, because I don't know that one. But considering it was an equal response by both of them. So, maybe?
Amusing.
Yes. Let's see.
Yeah, thank you for taking part in the chat, by the way. We always appreciate that.
Absolutely. And with that, I want to make sure I check the email as well.
Other than that, I'll just finish up my Geek Cred then. So I've also been rewatching Breaking Bad because fantastic, one of the best TV shows of all time, I would argue, and I don't think anybody would really disagree with me there. It's just such a good show. I just decided to rewatch it because it's something I've always planned to do. It popped up on my Netflix. I'm in between series. I was like, yeah, sure. I'm in between series that I enjoy.
Yeah. There's always more stuff out there. Yeah. There's so many things out there.
Yeah, so
that's like saying I should watch Game of Thrones or something, because I guess really everyone else in the world does.
I wish I was on this hype wagon with everybody else, but I don't have the time to
catch up. Yeah.
I can do.
Oh no, I feel the same way. I'm behind it in a way, and now I'm just like, I'm just gonna stick to the guns of I read the books and I'm waiting for the last books.
Yeah, exactly. I get you. I get you. That's everything with my Geek Cred, sir.
Okay, cool. With that, I do want to throw out there to everybody. I'm happy to get chat responses now as well as emails to help direct us. But what are your thoughts on us doing an official "We're Ready to Talk Endgames" show kind of thing, spoiler show coming up? Since I do have my fun spoiler tag that I can throw in there and kind of sit there and say, look, we have spoilers just in case. But with that in mind, of maybe next week actually talking Endgame. Thoughts? Everybody out there that's seen it has seen it, or people waiting longer for people waiting for regular release, stuff like that. Regardless, if we do talk it, I will happily put up the tag that we are going to be spoiling it before we talk anything. And if we do a show like that, I'm happy to entertain bringing others onto the show who want to participate. That we could have a big group discussion about it. And I said because I know I've had some discussions with people here and there about specific pieces depending on what people want, but I want to make sure I check with you guys first, because it sounds like my family out west would like to talk it. It sounds like Tabby's seen it, so it's more a question of those who is still holding out and waiting for another opportunity to see it before next Sunday. Because I think that could be a lot of fun, and that way I don't forget too much and do too much to revisit. But with that in mind, next week could be a fun Endgames related spoiler alert kind of show. And so
I'm all for that. This was like fun.
So, and that's the thing. Thank you, Copy, for that comment as well about, because some haven't seen it and some don't care, so it doesn't matter. But I just want to make sure before going into it, because there are so many things that I could talk to as well. And I've already thrown out there multiple times that one of the webcast series that I support from Screen Rant, the pitch meeting series, I highly recommend for movies, and especially things like Endgame, that once you've seen it, because it is all spoilers, that's all it is to watch the pitch meeting of it, because I find that hilarious. They do a good job. And yes, as Copy and I will talk about, we are purposely waiting, as our next hype is Detective Pikachu, when that one comes out, because we're going to see it as early, or whenever we are doing this in at Anime North over the long weekend. We're going to make a point of seeing it. I'm guessing probably Thursday night, but we'll see. And so things of that nature. Anyhow, all right, those are the main thing. I want to make sure I brought that up before went too much further. And it sounds like that might be a worthwhile thing. So if so, we'll maybe put out some information supporting that, and we will try to see if you are interested in joining in that discussion. Just email us at showx@vtwproduction.com sometime this week before next Sunday, so we can get that set up and get everything ready for it, and we can have a good, fun discussion, because I think that would be a blast. So,
yeah,
all right.
Absolutely.
With that, I think it is appropriate for us to turn over and kind of find a few moments to enjoy. Maybe.
Technology, news, and more today on the Geekoscope.
When I actually hit the button. So, news and things. Ken, I will go ahead and let you start things off, because you always seem to have some good articles ready to go.
I do. So again, if you don't already, follow us on Facebook, because what I do nowadays, instead of putting my articles inside of our notes, I actually share them directly to Facebook throughout the week, and then I'll discuss them as well at the end of the week. So if you have anything you'd like us to post on ShowX as well on our Facebook page, feel free to just post it directly to the page, and other people will see it there. That'd be a good way of us sharing the stuff. So the first one I want to bring up is Borderlands 3 will have cosmetic microtransactions, but no loot boxes. So this is a kind of interesting point. So there's been some confusion, it says the unilad.co.uk article, about whether or not the upcoming Borderlands 3 will have microtransactions or not, but it's been confirmed they will only offer cosmetic microtransactions. So I am okay with cosmetic microtransactions, but my general rule is only if it's free-to-play game. Because if you've already paid for the game, why are you paying extra for cosmetics? Admittedly, there's something to be said for paying extra for expansions, right? That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolute full content.
I don't think
everybody
has a problem with that, right? That's fine. If you're paying for just a small thing, then it's a bit of a gray area for me, because you've already paid for the game. You're paying for a visual artist to put something together, which in reality is probably going to be a few $100s, maybe a couple thousand, right? Realistically. So the amount of money they'll make back is going to be.
I see what you're saying, Ken, because there's a challenge there that there's two sides of what's the point of releasing new content that is potentially in-game, like visual aspects. What's the point of that, right? Is it to generate continued interest in the game beyond just the initial purchase price, and therefore to get other people to play and keep the hype up? Or is it to make additional revenue through selling more things to already consumers of the game? People have already bought into the game. Is to make more money from those same people and basically bleed them dry? And that's a question, right? Because one thing, just keeping a hype and freshness so that more people are attachment rate, more people are buying into the game in the first place, versus it's just shiny so I keep playing it for the shiny.
Yeah.
I don't know a good answer to that. I'm actually kind of curious what people think.
I've spent so much in this game, I don't want to leave it because I've spent so much in this game.
Yeah. Well, and like Babs is saying, and Borderlands in the past sold the cosmetics just like DLC expansions, but they were 99 cents. And so they did have moments, and it's interesting because Borderlands has always had DLC, but they've had proper DLC in the sense of ones that had, like, you know, full-on extra levels and extra content. They've always had good DLC packages, and the main game's always been pretty solid, so I hope they continue that trend. And it is possible that this isn't anything new. It's just people are more aware of it because of a lot of companies doing it poorly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's acceptable, right? If they're doing these big package things, again, we have no problem with that. The problem is when it's an individual thing. And if it is really cheap, like 99 cents, okay, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
I kind of like the league system where I also kind of hate it, right? They have loot boxes. There's a free game, so you kind of argue
but they added the loot boxes, right? Because originally it was just pay. It was just pay for skins. Now they've
okay with that.
added something that I can also just be really patient, and Lux have it. I might earn some skins. I've actually earned a surprising number of skins that I never had via their loot system that I would never have purchased. And when I get the skin, I'm like, sweet, playing that. You know, and so I admittedly still play League, ARAMs only, like constantly. And so something has been successful about that. And they've actually gotten me because I've now acquired more skins through that patch system, or through the loot crate system, essentially, or whatever, that I've spent more of the RP I've already had saved. Where they've done other skins or shinies, I was like, screw it, I'm buying it. Which I had been so stingy about holding on to my RP, but they actually teased me by giving me enough skins out of loot crates that I was kind of interested in buying skins again. And so I'd say they've been successful about it.
I love skins. I'm happy to spend money on it, to be honest. It really isn't a problem with me, because I just... One, I want to support the company that genuinely it makes a game that I thoroughly enjoy, right? So I'm happy to spend the money. I don't feel like I'm just doing it for cosmetic reasons. I feel like there's actually an ethical reason that makes it doubly acceptable. I hate the fact they have loot boxes because you can pay for them, right? You can pay real money for the loot boxes. That is bull. That is ridiculous. I'm not accepting it. It's gambling, and I think it's ridiculous having games because it's cashing in on people's vices that they often can't control. Right, so that annoys me greatly. However, if they just had loot boxes based earned only, I'd be like, great, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, like give us like skin shards or whatever that eventually combine into real skins that we earned through playing. Fine, and that would still encourage people to buy skins, which is fine. But I think actually paying for loot boxes really annoyed me, and I don't like that about League of Legends. And I never will ever purchase. And I hate the fact that you can earn a loot box and then you have to earn a key separately. It's an intentional temptation.
Well, it is, but they also do it on a bit of a purpose thing because they're trying multiple ways to keep the community engaged, but in a positive way. Because often you'll earn keys by being honored as a player, and I think it's one of the things they're trying to do to create a positive aspect to how do you deal with trolls. Because the people who get reported and stuff like that or who don't get honored because they're arse players or being mean, won't ever earn keys. They'll have to spend more money for those kind of things. And so I think at least that's a positive aspect where I admittedly every once in a while I log in and it's like, hey, you've been honored this much. Here's another key piece. Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
You know, it encourages me to continue to not be an ass whenever I play the game.
But again, skin shards or the points towards skins or the essence to craft
there's a bunch of it,
or
right?
Whatever would all be a better way of doing it than the loot boxes.
Well, what they've done though also is they've basically taken or changed the way they do IP, what they get for free, broken it up a little bit, and so they're able to, I think, manage it a little more discreetly. And I do believe they're doing a bit of social engineering with it to try to get people to perform in a way that's nicer and keep the community less toxic, because they've been identified as a game that has a very toxic community. And there are many that do.
It's
another
well
reason.
known. Yeah.
Yeah, another reason ARAM's only because toxicity there is much less.
Hey, slash mute all, man.
Well, even on the nice
Great
thing
games once you do that.
ARAMs I've rarely had to because it's just like, I just don't do the team chat. I don't chat to the other team. I just chat with my side. And mostly it's very rarely is it toxic. So, I mean, but I understand. And there are concerns with anything in that realm right now. Microtransactions, loot boxes, paid for DLC, paid for day one content or day zero content. All those kind of things are practices that some companies have gotten themselves in trouble with and created some negative, like, reputation with their consumers that I just hope that Borderlands won't, because I've enjoyed all the Borderlands games. I still need to play back through the prequel. Copy and I never finished that. But it's been a game that I've found has been fun. I know that my West Coast family and my younger brother have all been playing a lot of Borderlands 2 together in, I think, new hype for 3 and such. And so it's still a solid game. It's been one of the more entertaining co-op type gameplay shooters I've ever had. So I'm a fan.
Yeah, I think the Borderlands games are very good. I personally I'm not a fan, but I recognize them as good, right? It's more of I just don't think they're for me than anything.
Okay, and that makes sense.
Yeah, that's all it is. This news is interesting. I think they could. I think it's a little grey area having microtransactions for skins, but hey, it's vanity. It's not as if it's at least it's good vanity. Hopefully, that's the main thing, right? If you have to pay money for horse armor, that's where I think people get upset.
Bethesda. But what's interesting about that as well, that I'm just kind of curious of how much it'll matter, is most of what I personally saw in Borderlands was admittedly other player character and what they look like, but the guns. And because it's all about guns flying throughout the world constantly, I'm curious how much of that, like, are there going to be custom skins for certain guns or what? Because it's all about random guns, right? So
yeah,
I'll be curious to see what that does. We'll see.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we'll see. So again, at ShowX page, check out further news. I've got another one here. If you want me to continue, or do you have anything, sir?
Go ahead. It'll take us, I think, towards the end of the time. So yeah.
This is P from PC Gamer. EA have added 12 Star Wars games to Origin Access, including the original Battlefront 2. So that's actually some good news, because EA has been kind of crap with showing where you can get these games, these old ones. So the 12 Star Wars games that EA have just added to Origin Access. Its subscription service lets you play a vault of more than 200 games for a monthly fee. Reads like a greatest hits of the games from the franchise. If you're a paid member, you can now play the likes of Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, and the original Battlefront 2 and FPS Dark Forces. All three of those games are in the list of PC Gamer's best PC Star Wars games of all time, which are all now on Origin Access. So that's good. I'm glad they're adding more to it, and because I've always liked the idea of paying a monthly subscription to be able to access as many games as you want. It is a kind of neat model, and I do actually wish them the best of success with it. It's something that Steam doesn't offer. So
it'll be interesting, because there's a couple different stores that do that are kind of paid for play model. I think even with like PlayStation, Xbox, some of those. It's what we've heard from the new, which streaming service was going to do it. There's at least one or two other ones out there, and it's an interesting concept. Everything wants to be a subscription, because they get paid regardless if you use it or not. And so it'll be curious to see what's available and how things play going forward. I don't have a solid answer.
Worthwhile, right? That's the thing. The subscription model would work because people who have too much money for cents, and they'll play like 2 hours of games a month, and they pay because they just want to have access to everything, they've lost out, right? Whereas the people who are like maybe you and me, where we play a fair bit of gaming, we thoroughly enjoy games, and we $12 a month is probably less than we'd spend normally anyway, potentially. So it's not that bad a thing. Even though, of course, the big issue is that if one day the streaming service goes down, you've spent hundreds of dollars and you don't have anything to show for it other than your past history of playing, nothing new. So there's ups and downs.
Oh yeah.
I think I've got time for maybe one more if I'm
real quick one, yeah, because I know the other things I wanted to go into, which was some VR news and stuff like that. I won't have time, so go ahead, sir. Hit us with the last one, and then we'll call it for the day.
Sure. Pornhub wants to buy Tumblr and restore site to former porn-filled glory. This is from ArsTechnica.com.
That one's so ridiculous, but at the same time funny.
I think it's really smart marketing move from Pornhub if they do it, because Tumblr is something that people used to really enjoy.
Well, the funny part is, even if it's just getting their name out there, right? Which is, even if they don't ever have to pay for, it is highlighting an aspect of things that might work for what they're trying to do. At the same time, it's a question of, would they ever sell? Is that something that, what's that price profit kind of level that makes it worthwhile? I don't know. But it does speak to at least a core audience that had been vocal about when it all changed, and so it's at least that piece of it.
Hey, you've seen the stats for the usage of Tumblr, right? It's just shot right down after that. So this is not surprising to me at all.
Well,
And
it's
I hope
admittedly,
they do that.
regardless of what they do with it, it's not a site that I really ever use, because I only thought that kind of the worst elements of things lived on Tumblr.
Yeah, keep them there. Keep them there. They've gone elsewhere. Keep them in that community. There was a video getting shared around today of in Glasgow. There was a furry football match that was filmed by some onlookers. They were crawling around on the floor, on the ground, with furry masks on, patting the ball to each other.
Oh, yeah, they're doing the
It was in the Glasgow subreddit, so people who didn't necessarily know what furries are, people were asking, "Is this a sex thing?" And people were like, "Yes, it's
No,
a sex thing."
no, it's not. That is such a misconception. Oh gosh. People so
A
do
very
not
furry
understand
thing
it.
for you to say.
It is just such a misconstrued thing by general public. But regardless, it is time for us to go on that. So Ken, would you be so kind as to lead us out?
Absolutely. You listen to ShowX live on VtWProductions.com. Thank you for tuning in. You can find us every Sunday at 2 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. GMT. Check us out all over the web. You can find us on twitter.com/VtWShowX, twitter.com/DocDead, and twitter.com/GoHex for the show, for Mr. Wayne, for myself. Search for ShowX on Facebook to find us there. Do like us, because that's where we post all of the various interesting news we find in the week, tech, gaming, and such, as well as memes, and they're always good. You can email us to showx@VtWProductions.com. We will pretty much definitely read out your email if you send us an email, and that's much appreciated if you do. You can also support us by going to patreon.com/showx and give $1 a month or more. But $1 a month is absolutely fine, and everything you do, all the money you put in there goes towards the show and hardware and software for the show. We do not use it to buy ourselves beer.
Nope.
Sad. We made a promise, and God damn it, we'll keep it even if we don't want to.
Yeah. Well, it's better that than me having to every couple of years pay all the bills for maintaining sites and stuff. So.
Yeah, damn right. Yeah, absolutely.
So it works.
Okay. Thank you for having me on the show, sir. Well, I'll be in Discord if anybody else wants to join.
Yes, I will not be after the show right away. I've got another meeting to attend virtually here in a moment, but may jump in after that. But regardless, again, welcome. Happy yesterday's May the 4th be with you, and today's Revenge of the 5th, as we continue into this month of May and the summer months coming up, as I think is the last month or so for most kids in school, things like that, and everything. So as the weather gets warmer, hey guys, take a moment, get outside, enjoy it a bit, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Again, if you'd like to have that conversation about Endgame, feel free to email us at showx@vtwproductions.com. Let us know what you think, and we'll make sure to get you all the details so we can join in and have that conversation. With that, you've been listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com, and we will catch you again next time.
Goodbye. See you next zombie. Good night. Awesome.